Mike blinked in disbelief of what he had just heard. So, I'll be committing vehicular manslaughter as part of my job? Huh? Won't that attract a lot of attention, just like summoning portals to this world? Gaia shrugged. Not really. Portals popping up in public will attract attention due to their supernatural nature. Vehicle accidents attract less attention compared to portals, though you will still get attention from the law due to the hit and run. But that's when the runes come in. She opened the hood of the truck, showing every part inside the vehicle etched in runes and symbols. The truck contains several abilities. Activating some of them will also activate its passive abilities. Here's the rundown on what these are. Come inside. Mike and Gaia took a seat. Mike taking the driver's seat and Gaia taking the front passenger's seat and showing him the truck's dashboard. This will be your bread and butter. She opened the skills app. This is the skill you'll be frequently using. The Soul Snare skill. It has a 3-second casting time. When you honk your horn, it will prepare the vehicle to capture a soul. Once you hit the target, it stores their soul in the back of your truck. It also activates the passive skill Illusion. Each eyewitness will see a different vehicle color, model, plate number, all at the same time. This also affects cameras, so you'll have enough time to bring the truck to one of several warehouse locations worldwide owned by this company. From there, I'll activate a portal for you to be teleported to the other world, and so you can finish your delivery. The warehouse locations are marked on your GPS. Once you're on the other worlds, you won't get any powers, unfortunately. You'll still be an average Joe over there, since the vehicle acts as a Faraday cage except for the cargo space in the back, where the soul is stored, so be careful once you're there. Don't worry, though, because the client god in that world will make arrangements to accommodate you until the portal cooldown is finished. So, Mike, this is going to be a beta test, as this will be the company's first delivery. Lune's world is classified as a D-class world. Ranks range from D to SSS, from easy to difficult, based on the socio-political situation, environment, and average general survivability in that world. So, are you ready to start our first delivery? Mike nodded nervously, knowing he'll be committing vehicular manslaughter and getting away with it, but at the same time he'll be visiting new worlds. Gaia closed the garage door and reopened it again after a few seconds. Mike could see that the outside looked different. Gaia, with a smile on her face, sent a message from her tablet. A notification popped up from the truck's touchscreen dashboard. Welcome to Germany, Mike. I've handpicked our first target to be isekai'd. The details will be on your screen. Good luck! Mike opened the notification and saw the target's info, along with a photo showing a lean man with blonde hair and brown eyes. Target: Klaus Ur. Gender: male. Age: 30. Occupation: political science professor. Details: single, no family contact, lives alone. As Mike tinkered with the screen, it showed Klaus's location on the GPS map. He started up the truck, exited the warehouse, and dropped down the sun visor, giving a wave to Gaia. Don't you worry, boss. I'll make it quick. Mike parked at the side of the road a few meters away from a crosswalk. He breathed heavily in anticipation of a crime he was about to commit. Oh, God, I'm out of my depth here. Jesus Christ, what the hell have I gotten myself into? And why did it take me this long to even consider the consequences? Like, God damn! His hands were shaking as he gripped tightly to the steering wheel, noticing his palms were sweaty as his knees felt weak, and his arms were heavy, as if his conscience was screaming at him not to do this. His stomach grumbled, nausea starting to kick in, making him feel like he was about to puke. He lowered his head onto the steering wheel in an attempt to get a little rest. Bing! A notification popped up. You have arrived at your destination. He looked up, his windshield now active showing a HUD, highlighting his target among the crowd. The bottom left of his screen showed the Soul Snare icon glowing and ready to activate. Fuck it! He screamed as he revved his vehicle. The truck accelerated into the crowd, charging to its target. As it moved towards the target, and as he crossed the street, Mike then slammed the tablet to activate the Soul Snare. The crowd noticed the horn blaring La Cucaracha and made way for the truck to pass. But fortunately for Mike, his target, Professor Klaus Ur, was wearing AirPods and focused on his phone. The crowd screamed at him to get his attention, but to no avail. The truck finished casting and was ready to capture his soul. Its aura, glowing with magic, was disguised as the bright flash of headlights. Klaus looked to his side to see what was going on, but it was too late. His body slammed into the front of the truck, throwing him like a rag doll as his body rolled over, but the truck kept speeding, treating his body like a speed bump as it drove away, leaving the crowd stunned and shocked in the aftermath. Mike's hands shook as adrenaline flowed through his veins after he isekai'd the professor. He turned on the radio to put himself at ease with music, only to hear police radio chatter in utter chaos, as police officers asked for confirmation of the description of the vehicle of the hit-and-run suspect, only for the dispatch to provide conflicting information. He then looked up to his rearview mirror, seeing the ghostly form of Klaus unconscious as well, and now being sucked into a cardboard box with runes on it, which creeped Mike out after what he had just witnessed. Mike proceeded to drive casually, or at least his interpretation of driving casually, which was just following basic road safety, as he made his way to the warehouse marked on his map, all the while hearing ambulance sirens in the distance, making their way to the accident location. Mike arrived at the warehouse shortly after, with Gaia waiting at the entrance gesturing to Mike to park the vehicle inside. He backed up the truck onto the loading area. As he parked, Gaia held up her hands, letting Mike know to stay in the vehicle, and walked towards Mike.
Good job. So far, so good. Now, on to the next part.
Gaia reached down to her pocket and handed over an item to Mike.
This is your employee ID. Keep it on your person at all times. This acts as a translator and has an illusion aura that only affects you. It will make you appear as one of the locals, so you can blend in the other world while the client god, in this case, Alune, stacks up enough power for her to Isekai You back to this world. This ID also lets you communicate with her telepathically, as long as she has the warehouse generator runes powered in conjunction with a catalyst item from her world. Good luck!
Gaia waved Mike goodbye as the lights in the warehouse flickered until all the lights turned off. Everywhere was pitch black, except for the inside of the truck. The light was still working, but not the other electronics, Mike realized, as he tried to turn on the radio and the tablet to no avail. Mike sighed as he'd been waiting in the truck for 30 minutes. Note to self, bring my smartphone during the trip next time. The light then flickered back on, and Gaia was nowhere to be seen. Instead, a petite blonde elf woman with green eyes stood next to the front of his truck. You must be, Miss Alune. Got your delivery right here. Mike then exited his truck and made his way to the back of it, opening the cargo and picking up the glowing cardboard box. It's glowing. Is this normal? Got a ghost in a box here for you, miss. God, she's pretty, Mike thought to himself.
Alune chuckled. Thank you, Mike. I'm flattered. Hopefully this second Isekai hero will make changes for the better this time.
Oh, shit! You read my mind! Mike tapped his pocket where he put his ID, all flustered. Oh, yeah, that's right. This thing with the magic ID. Wait, what do you mean the second hero? Alune scratched the back of her head in embarrassment.
Well, 3,000 local years ago, I went to your world, with permission from Gaia, of course. Well, my world was in the middle of a crisis, but fortunately the hero that I summoned had leadership qualities and had helped my people, the elven kind, from the brink of extinction, pushed back the other races from the war, and improved quality of life with knowledge of technical concepts he had brought with him. It had turned the tide of the war despite my people's small numbers. But? Mike asked, encouraging her to carry on since she brought up the topic. Well, this is where it gets dark. It was during peacetime that things went overboard. The hero went on a power trip and sparked a second world war. When the hero died of old age, the damage had already been done, and the war continued on until elvenkind became the dominant force in this world that it is now. Ah, I see. So that's where this guy comes in. Mike gestured to the glowing box he was carrying. Basically, fix the mess the previous hero made. Gotcha. Mike handed over the box to Alune. So, what now? Just open the box, pop the second hero out, and then let him do his thing? Mike asked nonchalantly. Not really. There's actually a holiday tomorrow to honor the founding of this nation, Elphika, when the first hero leader made this city-state into a nation-state. People all over the world will join this year's festival, because tomorrow night is when the royal mages will make another attempt to summon the hero. That's when I'll place him in the ritual circle they'll summon him in. They tried this before after the first hero died of old age, But ultimately I decide when it will happen. In this case, it will be this era. Gotta make it grand.
Ulune gestured excitedly as she hugged the box.
By the way, I will be recharging the runes in this warehouse so you can make it back home. In the meantime, you should stay at one of the nearby inns for the evening, enjoy the festival, and then come back here the day after tomorrow.
Ulune opened her palm and a light flashed, showing stacks of currency bills.
Here you go, for your troubles and for you to enjoy your visit. Don't spend it all in one night, okay? Oh, and take these prayer beads. They'll act as a catalyst with your ID so I can communicate with you. Just hold them and squeeze to talk to me in your thoughts.
Ulune winked as she handed the money and the beads to Mike. Mike smirked as he accepted the stack of cash. Thank you. Don't mind if I do. He exited the warehouse with Ulune waving him goodbye.
There's an inn just a block from here. Enjoy your stay.
Mike lit up his cigarette as the lights on the warehouse were turning off. Man, today was freaky as hell, he muttered to himself and took a long drag of the cigarette. He looked up and exhaled deeply. Now that's some real freaky shit. Mike saw 2 moons in the sky, one with green light around it and the other blue. He made his way to the sidewalk on the dark street. Mike surveyed the area, and it looked like a modern human city, but it was too dark to really examine it, so he kept walking until he saw a street with lights. The streets were buzzing with life. The surrounding area looked so retro, almost like the 1930s with a little bit of steampunk mixed in. The streetlights looked like they were using a white gem as their source of light instead of a light bulb. Cars slowly passed the street and made way for pedestrians to cross. Huh, interesting. They even have cars. Mike's attention focused on the glowing pipes on the engines, and he noticed the cars had various colors of neon pipes on the front. He stood on the street finishing his cigarette as he took in the sights. He saw one of the elves get into a car parked in front of him. An elf woman took out a red gem from her pocket and inserted it into a gem slot at the center of the steering wheel. The car started up and the pipe on the hood glowed red. Oh, cool. So they're using these gems as a power source, he thought to himself. Hallo, Junge. Mike heard a woman behind him tried to get his attention. Mike couldn't understand what the woman behind him said. In his panic, he walked away, struggling to find his ID. He saw a sharply dressed woman in black walking towards him, but she seemed to be looking at the woman that was behind him. He felt his ID on his right pocket and tapped it. As he passed the sharply dressed woman, he saw her holstered pistol and the ejector glowing green. Next to it was a magazine pouch, but the magazine didn't have bullets. Instead, the magazine acted as a casing for a green gem.
You there! Stop harassing that man!
Mike looked back and he saw the sharply dressed woman stopping the woman that was following him. He turned a corner, breaking line of sight from the 2 women.
Sir, is this woman Hey, where did he go?
That was definitely an elf cop, or just a cop in this world. And why do they all have German accents? Well, whatever, but damn, that woman with that Hugo Boss drip got some nice curves. He then continued to walk, looking for a place to stay for the night, while trying not to grab any attention. He looked at the signs on the building. They were written in a runic text that wasn't familiar. He tapped his ID and the sign suddenly morphed into English text right before his eyes. I need to tell Gaia the translation feature on this ID is a bit wonky and needs some improvement. Mike finally saw an inn where he could stay. The reception area was empty, given that it was the middle of the night, except for the innkeeper. He saw a red-haired elf woman with bright green eyes, busy reading a book, and hadn't noticed him. Hello, good evening, ma'am. The elf receptionist suddenly sat up straight, surprised by the unexpected arrival of a guest so late at night.
Man? Alone? This late at night? No less? What can I do you for? Is someone with you?
She scanned the room to confirm if someone else was with the man.
I'm here for the night for tomorrow's festivities. Do you have a room available?
The woman composed herself and cleared her throat.
Why, yes, sir. I can book you right now. I'm sure we can accommodate a gentleman such as yourself.
She then crouched down from her desk to grab the ledger to sign him in as a guest. Is she blushing? Mike thought to himself. Gotta admit, she is cute. I like this world. Mike reached into his pocket, and as he pulled out his cash, his ID dropped to the floor. The receptionist looked up to Mike to hand him a pen for him to sign, but then stood up in shock from what she saw.
Goddess, those ears, it's a
Mike noticed his ID on the floor. When the receptionist turned away to fix herself quickly, Mike picked up the ID. The stunned woman looked at Mike again, and he high-fived her outstretched hand. Are you okay, ma'am? You had me worried there. Anyway, I'll take the best room you have. Mike handed the stack of cash to the confused elf.
I'm seeing things.
Mike shrugged, then smiled. Well, ma'am, you must be really tired, and so am I. After all, I had a really long trip to get to this city. Mike yawned and signed his name in the ledger. The English text he wrote immediately warped into runic text, but from the elf's point of view, he was writing in Elvish. I'll just take my change when I check out tomorrow. The confused elf handed him a key with a yellow gem attached to the keychain, then looked at the ledger to learn his name. Here you go, Mr. Mike Ramirez. Such a strange name. Mike playfully shrugged. Like I said, ma'am, I'm far away from home. He winked at the receptionist, making her blush. He headed down the hallway, but came back to the receptionist embarrassed. Which way to my room?
Top floor, sir. Then go to the left hallway. The key gem is linked to the room's gem outlet. It will glow brighter the closer you are to your room. Just swipe the gem to the door to unlock it. Then, once inside, just insert the gem to the gem slot to power your room. Mike nodded in acknowledgement. Right, gotcha. Mike then looked at the gem. Oh, neat. Like hotel keycards in my world, he thought to himself. The elf suddenly realized, I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to insinuate that you don't know how gem tech works. I'm so sorry, sir. I really apologize if I have offended you. The elf girl goes bright red from embarrassment. Don't sweat it, pretty girl. It's all good. Oh, and by the way, it's Rami Riz. Mike pointed two-finger guns and then winked. And he went into the elevator. He heard the receptionist greet another guest who just entered the inn. Jesus Christ, man. Rami Riz? Finger guns? Mike recreated the gesture in the mirror in the elevator. God, it's so cringe I could just die right now. Yeah, you're right. You are cringe, said a female voice in his head. Oh, shit, I'm losing it. Oh, wait. Mike realized he was holding the prayer beads instead of his key. So, how you holding up in this world? Said Alune. Nothing much. Seen a lot of hot elven girls, though. I must be in the city's red light district, so that's a given. You know, for an elven world, the place isn't really elfy like I'd expect. Really? What do you classify as elfy? Mike unlocked the door and turned on the room's power. Well, elfy, as in trees, nature, and all that stuff. Giant hollow trees where elves live, bridges connecting them made out of wood and rope, or at least have a lot of trees in general, and not a steampunkish 1940s. Mike made his way to the king-sized bed, visually tuning out his surroundings as he laid down on the bed. Well, you would be correct in that assessment. Before the era of the first leader 3,000 years ago. Also, we're not in the red light district. Females are the majority of the population, 20-1 to be exact. Elves back then had a very low population as they practiced monogamy, and had a lifespan of 500 years. Given the gender imbalance, most women would rarely see a male, let alone have a relationship. Even a little bit of physical contact would be a big deal. Still is to this day. The First Leader's era encouraged polygamy, and caused a population boom since the world was in a constant state of war. Those attitudes are no longer entirely the case these days, but much of it still remains. You saw how that receptionist girl reacted when seeing a guy for probably the first time. Oh, that makes sense. Nice to know the quick rundown of this world's history. Well, since I have your attention, there are things to know about this world. Let me start at the very beginning. Mike started to doze off and fell asleep as Alune detailed the world's history, unable to absorb the info dump provided by one of the world's goddesses. Mike suddenly woke up from the sound of beating drums and singing. It sounded German, but had an uncanny feeling to it, as though his gut was telling him it wasn't German, like a video showing what English sounds to a non-English speaker.
He opened the curtains to see that a parade was happening in the distance. Mike went down to the hotel lobby. Several eyes suddenly locked onto him, including the staff which were pretending not to look at him, and doing something else. The receptionist from last night excitedly patted her colleague.
See? You see? That's him, an unaccompanied man, and we talked. He flirted first.
Her black-haired colleague scoffed.
Of course you two talked. He did check in alone. He had to talk to you. I call bullshit on the flirting, though. Not with your virgin ass.
Mike pretended not to eavesdrop on their conversation as he stared outside, scanning everything happening outside like an eager tourist, and tapped his pocket in rhythm with the drumbeat from the parade, which was blocked from view by the crowd outside. Mike was unaware he was tapping his ID, briefly messing up the translator function.
Das! It's true! A Führer einshined me into a vision. He was a brown-skinned Führer like the dark elves from the south. Then he tried to heil, but we held hands. It was a sign that it is meant to be. That is bullshit. Then prove it. You've been reading too much slutty romance novels. It's rotting your brain.
Mike could barely understand what they were saying, and realized he'd been tapping his ID the whole time. He took it out and tapped it again to fix the translator before putting it inside his back pocket.
Mr. Rami Riz, good morning. I hope you rested well. You should stay here and have some breakfast. We're serving pancakes.
The receptionist put her hand on his shoulder as she greeted him, only for Mike to realize he forgot to ask the woman's name until he read her name tag.
Hello, Helga. Good morning to you, too.
Mike smiled, then put his hand on top of her hand in response, shocking the black-haired receptionist in disbelief, turning Helga's cheeks red and receiving envious looks from the other patrons. Mike then excused himself and left the inn before Helga could respond. She watched Mike disappear into the passing crowd. The policewoman from the day before tried to catch up to Mike after spotting him when she was exiting the bathroom, but to no avail. She then looked back at Helga with an annoyed and frustrated look.
What in God's name is wrong with you? Leaving a male on his own?
The policewoman tried to pick him out of the crowd and proceeded to go in the direction where Mike was headed. Mike made his way to the city square, dodging the crowds. Most of the elves didn't pay much attention to him, although the few he bumped into stared at him with surprised looks until he disappeared into the crowd. Mike made it to the front of the parade and was shocked at what he witnessed. Elves in Wehrmacht uniforms, all women, goose-stepping in formation towards the city square as the crowd cheered. He couldn't deny that they were all pretty, and he couldn't help but stare at the bouncing breasts during each step. They held what appeared to be bolt-action rifles, but with that signature Gemtech glow where the ejector would have been. He assumed it would let the user know if they still had shots left, or if they needed to swap in a magazine with a fresh gem. The next column of troops were carrying what he assumed was a submachine gun, since it looked so similar to an MP-40. The song the women were marching to switched to a familiar tune, and he could understand the words. In the homeland waits a little boy of mine, and he's named Elfika. Mike stood there watching the parade dumbfounded. I'm pretty sure this is the localized version, but damn, that just sounds so wrong. The crowd then did a Sieg Heil salute to the troops marching to their national anthem. Mike realized that Helga was also about to do a Sieg Heil last night, but he had high-fived her instead by mistake. It all started to click. God, I'm so dense. Mike was suddenly blinded by the flash of a camera. As his eyes adjusted, he realized that the photograph captured everyone but him doing a Sieg Heil salute. Mike took his prayer beads out of his pocket to contact Alune. Hey, Alune, is this the mess you were talking about? How come you didn't mention this is a world of big-tittied elf Nazis thanks to the first hero you summoned? It looks like you turned an entire race into a... What do you call a weeaboo, but instead of Japan, it's Nazi stuff? Oh, yeah, wereaboo. That's right. The first hero leader you summoned turned them all into wereaboos. I already told you about this, but I noticed you had fallen asleep 2 hours into my explanation of this world's history. Don't worry, the ID you have will make you look like any other person in that photo, so you don't have to worry about the elf Stapo knocking on your door any time. Also, humans don't exist in this world, but they call humans Führers after the first hero. Interesting fact, Mike's telepathic communication was cut off, as he was startled by a uniformed woman tapping his back. He looked to see that it was the same cop from the previous evening, but now with a smile on her face that appeared to show a deep, primal hunger.
Excuse me, good sir. My name is Officer Rosa Schlupfer, and I'm concerned that a male such as yourself is outside alone without any escort. I will need you to come with me. But since you're already here, why not see the parade? However, I'll be your escort during your stay here. I won't leave your side. For your protection, of course. Mike, if you could hear her thoughts like I do, she's totally into you. Not surprised at all. Oh, now she's fantasizing this as a date. Pretty wholesome so far, and oh, whoa, okay. Now that's some degenerate thoughts about you. Mike let go of the prayer beads to stop Lune from describing in graphic detail what the cop would want him to do to her. Rosa then held Mike's arm to get closer to him. I'm really excited about the arrival of a second Fuhrer. This really marks a new era for the glory of the Reich and an end to the reformist insurgency. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Mike nodded along, but his mind was somewhere else. Rosa tried to grab his attention. Oh, look! It's the statue of our first hero, the Fuhrer who guided us to greatness. Such glory! Mike squeezed the beads tightly. My God, you did it. You actually did it, Alune. You reincarnated Adolf Hitler after he killed himself and restored him to his teenage years thousands of years ago. So that's the mess you made. What have I gotten myself into?